Hello, my yarny friends. I'm Sara Sach. Welcome back to my crochet channel. I'm super glad you're here. Today's video, I'm going to show you how to crochet the Gradient Grace top. And this top is just a neat little top to slide over a tank top or a sundress, or even use as a bathing suit cover up, because it's open and lacy. It's just a fun addition to your wardrobe. Now, I designed this with 5 sizes. It can be made in a small, a medium, a large, an extra large, and a 2X. And it's very loose and drapey. This yarn is amazing. It drapes beautifully. And the yarn that I used to design this is called Premier Anti-Pilling Everyday Worsted Gradient Yarn. It's a medium weight number 4, 100% anti-pilling acrylic. This is orange tones. I used the pink tone and the black tones for this pattern. When I got my yarn in with it, because these are new yarns, these gradients are, and when I got it in and I saw the beautiful pink and the beautiful black tones, I had to make this top. And I love how it works up, because the front are the lighter tones and the back is the darker tones. And I absolutely love the way it fits, the way it drapes, and also just the colors. It's a slow moving gradient yarn and just gorgeous. I'd show you the pink and gray one, but I used them. All right, so this is our Gradient Grace top. I think you're really going to enjoy making this one, because it's basically, we get started from the bottom, we do 3 rows of double crochet, and then we set ourselves up for our V-stitch rows, and then it's a bunch of V-stitch rows. And you're going to make a front and a back, and then we're going to put them together at the neck. And then we do the sides, and that's it. And this pattern has lots of options. As I mentioned, it has lots of sizes, but also it's up to you the length that you want. This would make a beautiful little midriff to wear over a bathing suit. It would also make a really long tunic to wear over maybe some leggings and a sports bra. So there's lots of opportunities with this pattern and lots of ways to make it versatile for what you like. And if you've never ever made a garment before, this is a super simple garment to try. All right, so I want you to give it a try. I think you'll really enjoy making it, because it's super easy. The length is up to you, sizing's up to you, and you're just making 2 pieces and putting them together. All right? It is made with, like I said, a medium weight number 4 yarn. If you don't happen to have the Premier Gradient, you can order it, of course. I always put my Premier link underneath the video for you to go and order it. But also, you can use any medium weight number 4 yarns that you have on hand. Any of them will work, even cotton, as long as it's a medium weight number 4. It's really a nice, versatile pattern. Okay? I love it. I just really love it. I love how it turned out. Okay, now, if you want to have the written pattern with lots of pictures, you can find that pattern on my blog. And as always, I'll put that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. To make our beautiful Gradient Grace top, you're going to need 2 different colors. And what I did is I used the Premier Anti-Pilling Everyday Worsted Gradient. It is a medium weight number 4, 100% acrylic. And I love that it's anti-pilling. All right. And of course, I'm using Premier Gradient. You can use any medium weight number 4 yarn that you want to. When this yarn came in, I was like, I'm putting the pink tones and the black tones together, and it looks absolutely gorgeous, and I love it. I already had this pattern in mind, and when I started working on it with these colors, I just absolutely loved it. And so how we did this is we started with the gray tones. We stitched halfway up the pattern and then we ended with the pink tones. And this one, of course, came out darker and this one came out lighter. And I just absolutely love how that all works up with all these different shades of the two colors. So you're going to need approximately 5 ounces of each of the two colors, or a total of 10 ounces. Okay? Now each one of these has 7 ounces on it. You can see that's 360 yards. So you're going to need 2 cakes. All right, we're going to stitch today with our eye hook, which is a 5.5 millimeter. This is going to give us a little bit more of an openiness because we want it to be open and lacy. And believe me, this yarn has excellent drape. So we're stitching with our eye hook, 5.5 millimeter. Okay, and then you need a needle for weaving in ends and your scissors. So you can use any colors that you want to. And of course, those gradient yarns have lots of beautiful shades. And I really like it with the 2 shades, and I think that you'll enjoy doing that as well. So I'm starting at the bottom, so I'm going to start with my black tones. And this is at where it's kind of gray now. All right, now we're going to talk about sizing first. So here's my slip knot. All right, so this pattern has a small, a medium, a large, an extra large, and a 2X. And you can get those neck measurements on the blog as well. But it measures about 16 inches, 18 inches, 20, 22, and 24 across the neck. Okay? And that just gives you an idea of how the neck fits. All right? All right, so when we're stitching, we're going to begin with a certain number according to the size that we want to make. All right, and I'm just going to do the small one just because it takes a little less yarn and I'm doing a demo. So if you're making the small, you need to do 60 chains. If you're making the medium, you're going to need 68 chains. If you're making the large, you're going to need 76 chains. If you're making the extra large, you need 84. And if you're making the 2X, you need to stitch 92 chains. All right? And remember, we're going to make a front and a back and then put them together. All right? All right, so let's chain the number of the size that you're making. And I'm making the small, so I'm going to go ahead and remember to loosely chain your initial chain. So I'm going to chain 60 chains, just a little bit loose. So I have chained my 60 chains loosely. And it doesn't matter how many chains you have, these first 3 rows are exactly the same. All right, so we're going to begin by placing a double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 3 chains at the beginning counts as our first stitch, and then we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in each of the chains, working all the way across. And remember, this top is made to fit loose and comfy. All right? But I also recommend, because everybody has a different tension when they stitch, that you measure as you go to see if it's going to fit. All right? And also, one thing that people forget sometimes is that different people like their clothes to fit differently. Sometimes, depending on the style, I like my top to fit loose, and sometimes I like it to fit more snugly. Just depends on the style. All right, so I'm just going to continue working across, stitching 1 double crochet in each of my chains across. We started in the 4th chain from the hook, and then we stitched 1 double crochet in each of our chains across. All right, so if you're doing the small size, you're going to have 58 double crochets. If you're doing the medium, you'll have 66. If you're doing a large, you'll have 74. If you're doing the extra large, you'll have 82, and if you're doing the 2X, you're going to have 90 double crochets. All right? Now, what we're going to do next is chain 3. We're going to turn our work and stitch down this way, and we're going to, the chain 3 counts as our first, and then we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets across. And we're going to do this for 2 rows so that we have 3 rows of double crochet at the bottom of our work, because we're starting at the bottom and working our way to the top. And remember, we're going to make 2 pieces, a front and a back. I have completed those 2 rows of double crochet. Our chain 3 counted as our first double crochet on our 2 rows, and it will continue to count as your first double crochet all the way through. All right, so we chained 3. We're going to turn our work. Now we're going to double crochet in the next 3 double crochets. We're going to chain 2, 1, 2. We're going to skip the next 2 stitches and place 1 double crochet in the next 2. Then we'll chain 2, skip 2 double crochets and 1 double crochet in the next 2. And we're going to repeat this, working all the way across. Now, depending on the size that you make, will determine how many of these sets of 2 double crochets that you'll have across. All right? So we're going to repeat, chain 2, skip 2, 1 double crochet in the next 2, all the way across until we have 6 double crochets left, because we'll need to chain 2 and then 1 double crochet in the last 4. All right, so just continue across, stitching 2 double crochets, chain 2, skip 2, 2 double crochets, all the way across until there's only 6 stitches left on your row. So I have completed row 4. We started with our chain 3 and 3 double crochets, which makes 4. Chain 2, skip 2, and then 1 double crochet in the next 2, and repeated this all the way across. Now I have 12 because I'm doing the small size, and of course you're going to have more of your 2 sets if your sizes are larger. And then we ended with 6 here, so we have a chain 2, skip 2, and then 1 double crochet in the last 4 double crochets. All right, I chained 3, and now we're going to turn our work. All right, now we're going to do row 5, and on row 5, our chain 3 again counts as our double crochet. We're going to double crochet in the next 3, which will give us 4 double crochets, and we're going to have 4 double crochets at the beginning and end of each row. All right, so now we're going to chain 2, and we're going to go in between those 2 double crochets and stitch a V-stitch, which is a double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. All right, chain 2, go in between those 2 double crochets and stitch a V-stitch, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. And we'll repeat this, working all the way across again until we get to those last stitches, and we'll chain 2 and 4 double crochets in the last. All right, so we have our 4, chain 2, V-stitch in between the 2 double crochets, chain 2, and we'll repeat this all the way across until we reach those last 6 stitches. So again, our chain 3 counted as our first double crochet. We stitch 3 more, chain 2, V-stitch between the 2 double crochets, chain 2, V-stitch all the way across, and you're going to have the same number of V-stitches as you had sets of 2 double crochets. And we repeat this all the way across, chain 2, and then 1 double crochet in the last 4 double crochets. And now we're all set up for our repeat rows. There we go. And chain 3. And just to repeat, all rows, the chain 3 counts as your first double crochet, okay? All right, let's do row 6. So we're going to double crochet in the next 3. Chain 2, and V-stitch in the chain 1 space of our V-stitch. Alrighty, chain 2, and we'll repeat this all the way across until we reach those last stitches. Alright, so chain 2, V-stitch in the chain 1 space of the V-stitch, and repeat all the way across. V-stitch in the chain 1 space of the V-stitches with chain 2s in between all the way across until those last 4 double crochets. And so again, we stitch to chain 3 and 3 double crochets, chain 2, V-stitch, chain 2, and each of our chain 1 spaces of our V-stitches. Your count should remain the same because we're not adding or subtracting any. Then we did chain 2 and 1 double crochet in the last 4. And so what you're going to do is you're going to continue to repeat row 6 for the amount that you need for the length. All right, so if you're making this small, you're going to need to repeat for 26 rows. If you're making the medium, you'll need to repeat for 28 rows. If you're making the large, you'll need to repeat for 30 rows. And if you're making the extra large, 32 rows. And if you're making the 2X, for 34 rows. Now this is going to get you the amount of rows you need for the entire front or back, because we're doing them exactly the same of the sweater. Now I changed colors halfway through. All right, so if you want to make it like mine, you're going to need to just do half of those rows. In other words, for the small, you're doing 32, so only do half of those rows in the first color, then change colors and do the second half in the other colors, because we're going to be doing all of our rows of V-stitches, and then we're going to add some solid rows at the top for the neckline. All right? So you need to continue to repeat row 6 for the amount of rows stated, and if you want to make it 2 color like I did, you need to do half those rows in color 1 and then finish in color 2. So here is the actual top, not the swatch, and I started with the dark black. That's why I didn't do the intro with that, because that would be just too dark for you to see. All right, and so we've got our 3 rows of double crochet and then all of our rows up, and you can see I divided it in half and I stitched the top part in the pink, which is super pretty. All right, so once you get the length that you want, and I really want to talk to you about length just a little bit, because this makes a nice midriff. If you want to make it shorter, do less rows. It also looks nice as a tunic made longer, and you can do as many rows as you want. We are going to add 3 rows of double crochet to the top, and just grab your tape measure and measure down to see if it's the length that you want. Once it's the length that you want, you can add your 3 rows of double crochet. That's why I really like this pattern, because it's super versatile. All right, let's turn our work. Our chain 3 again counts as our first double crochet, and we're going to double crochet in those 3 double crochets. Now we're going to place 2 double crochets in the chain 2 space. So 1 and 2. And that brings us to the V-stitch. So we're going to double crochet in the double crochet. Do not double crochet in the chain 1 space. Go right to that next double crochet of the V-stitch and double crochet. All right? So basically we're double crocheting in each of the double crochets and 2 double crochets in each of the chain 2 spaces. Do not double crochet in the chain 1 space. Okay? So 2 double crochets in the chain 2, double crochet in the 2 double crochets of our V-stitch, and repeat across. All right, and that's how this row is done. It's going to get us back to a nice even row of double crochets. So I have completed this row of making a solid row of double crochets. We started with our chain 3 and then placed 1 double crochet in the next 3, 2 double crochets in the chain 2 space, and then 1 double crochet of each of the double crochets of our V-stitch. And again, we did not place a double crochet in the chain 1 space of each of the V-stitches. And that gave us a nice even row of double crochet across. Okay, and then we finished with 4 double crochets, 1 in each of the last 4, and then chain 3. So we're going to turn our work over, and now we're going to do 2 rows of just 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets across. Easy peasy, right? 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets across, chain 3 and turn and repeat, so that we have 3 rows of solid double crochets. I have completed those 3 rows. So now I'm going to cut my yarn and tie that off. All right, and so this is 1. And then I need to make a second one, because you need to have a front and a back. And so I've already got the other one made. And so we're going to put these together to make the top of our top. The top of our top. But I wanted you to see how this looks. Everything lines up on the sides for our stripes. And that's important as well, but you know, not a big deal if you're not really caring about that. All right. And so this lighter pink is going to be the front of my top. And then the darker pink and gray are going to be the back of my top. Let me show you how that looks. Isn't that going to be pretty? All right, so now I'm going to show you how to do the top and then the sides and put our top together. So now that we have 2 pieces, same size, although they aren't the same color, and I love that, we're going to do the top or the neckline. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the 2 pieces together, and I'm going to turn them this way so that you can see. Oh, my needle got caught. There we go. All right. Now, the way we stitch this, of course, is different for each size. So keep that in mind, okay? Because what we want to do is we want to be working on the wrong side or the inside with the right sides facing out. And because of the way we stitch, turn, it's kind of up to you which side you want to be your right or wrong side. Okay? All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to be stitching what I really would call the outside stitches. So on each of our ends, we have 2 sets of loops. And so we're going to go in the outside loop, which would be the front loop on this one. And we're going to go in the outside loop, which would be the back loop on that one. All right, let's go ahead and bring in our yarn. There we go. And I'm using the pink. You could use the other color if you wanted a contrast, but I don't really. I want it to stay similar. All right, so this right here, the amount of stitches is determined by what size that we're making. And this is going to be the shoulder. Then we'll have an opening and another shoulder. All right, so if you're making the small, we're going to make 10 stitches. If you're making the medium, we're going to make 12. If you're making the large, you're going to need 14. The extra large, 16, and the 2X, 18 single crochets. Now, it's also up to you. If you want your neck line, your head opening or neck opening to be bigger, you can do less stitches. If you want it to be tighter in, maybe a smaller neckline or neck opening, then you can do less stitches. It's up to you. But this is, as we tested the pattern, these seem to work best for what we tested. And again, it's up to you. I am making the small, so I'm going to do 10 stitches. So here's the first 2. We're going to do 1. And remember, we're doing the outside loops. 2, 3. Whoops, I went on the inside loop. There we go. 4. Get some more yarn out. 5. 6. I did it again. Outside loop, Sarah. There we go. All right, I've lost count. Let me go back and count what I've done. All righty. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. One more. All right, and so you see the shoulder is not very big because this is what you would call, I think they call it a boat neck. I can't remember, but it has a nice big opening so that it has nice drape. It's up to you. If you want to do more stitches, just remember the amount of stitches you do on this side, you'll need to do the same on this side. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're only going to stitch across the front. And how we'll do that is we're going to stitch only across the front, and then we'll stitch the 2 together, and then we'll come back and stitch across the back. And I'll explain how to do that. But we're going to go through both loops here. Okay. If you added stitches or subtracted stitches on the shoulder section, make sure you mark that at the end so that you don't go across. All right, and so you're just going to go across until you've got the amount of stitches on this end left that you did over here. I did 10, so I'm going to make sure I stitch across and leave 10 stitches so I can do the other shoulder. So I stitched my first 10 across, and then we single crocheted all the way across, and I used a stitch marker just to mark the last 10 stitches so I didn't forget and keep going. All right, so we're going to take the other end of our top, and I'm going to count the 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'll put the stitch marker through both of them. That will help also. And of course, I've already counted that. And so I'll take my stitch marker out and we'll do that same thing. We'll go on the outside. Make sure I took my stitch marker out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There we go. And we'll go on those outside stitches and stitch those single crochet. And remember, however many you did over here on this side for this shoulder, you want to do the same amount on this side. If you added or subtracted, you'll need to adjust that. And we're working in those outside loops for the shoulder portions. All right, and then these last two are chain 3, so we'll just single crochet in those because those chain 3 count as our double crochet on the ends of those rows. All right, so now we're going to chain 1. We're not done yet with this part, but I want you to see how that looks. Here's our shoulder. Here is where we single crocheted, and then here is our shoulder. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take my whole work and turn it. Okay. In this section here of these 10, we're going to slip stitch back to the center of our top. Okay, so we're just going to slip stitch, and this just gets us back over there. So we'll do 10 slip stitches, or however many you did for your shoulder. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see, did I miss that one? There we go. All right, so we just slip stitched across just to get us back over here because we want to single crochet along the back edge of our top as well. There we go. So we'll just go right in that first stitch and single crochet across. On the back edge or opening of our top. One single crochet in each of those double crochets. So I single crocheted across the back opening, and now I'm to those 10 stitches that we started with, and we're just going to slip stitch in those stitches that we made back over to the corner. Alrighty, now we're just gonna clip that, and I like to make one more little slip stitch just to make sure it's secure. There we go. And now we can weave those ends in, but I want you to see how that looks. Here's our stitches for the shoulder, our opening, then we stitched across and came back, and it looks really nice. And of course this is the inside, and let me flip it over so you can see what it looks like on the outside. It's just a seam with a trimmed collar or trimmed opening. So I've got my top all laid out with the wrong sides out and the right sides together. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab our tape measure and our stitch marker, and from the top we're going to measure down 6 inches. Which puts us at about right here. All right, now you can adjust that if you want your armhole to be bigger or smaller. Maybe you want to go down 8 inches. My stitch marker's stuck. There we go. Then you can measure down. So what we've done is we've said for the small, you want to go down 6 inches. For the medium and large, you want to go down about 7. And then for the 2X, you want to go down about 8. Okay? But since we're making a small, we're going to go down about 6 inches, and we're going to mark that with our stitch marker. All right, now the length of the side is up to you. You can stitch all the way down to the bottom if you want to. I like having an opening down here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down from there to my 8-inch mark. Okay? And then that gives me an opening down here of about 8 inches. Now, when your sizes that are larger, they're going to be longer on the side, and so you'll have to adjust that. All right? So what we've decided is that for the small size, you're going to go down 8 inches. That's the small and the medium, 8 inches. Okay? And then for the large, extra large, and 2X, about 10 inches. But again, it's determined by you if you want to completely close the sides or leave it open with a little bit of a slit there. Okay? So I've got my stitch marker in where I'm going to start. I'm going to put my hook in right there, making sure everything's lined up. The main thing that you want to make sure stays lined up is if you changed colors, you don't want them to get off. Okay? All right, so I'm going to bring my yarn in. So I've taken my stitch marker out, and I want to measure down 8 inches from where we started, which is about right here. And I'll mark that with my stitch marker. That way I know how far to go. All right, and so all we're going to do is we're going to evenly single crochet from where we started to our stitch marker. So now we're just going to go through stitches and not holes, stitching the front and back together. There we go. With single crochets. And I do recommend on this particular portion that you sort of loosen up a little bit with your tension so that it lays real pretty. If you try to get it too tight, that little seam there is going to pucker up. We don't want to do that. We want it to be nice and loose and drapey. Although this yarn has wonderful drape to it. I am just loving working with it. It has that sheen to it that makes it so pretty. There we go. Now I will be honest with you, this portion here is probably the hardest part. It's not hard. You just have to take your time. But that's how easy this pattern is that just seaming the sides is the hardest part. Try to go in those sides of the stitches if at all possible, stitching just a little bit loose. And you'll stitch from where you started to where you marked it with your stitch marker. And again, the small, medium size, we're going 8 inches, and the large, extra large, and 2X, we're going down 10 inches. All right? And again, adjust it as needed. So we started here, we measured down, started here, and then we measured across. I took my stitch marker out because I stitched down the side, and I'm leaving the opening. Now you can have a slit, or you can stitch it all the way to the bottom. It's up to you. I like the opening. It's fun. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and weave these two ends in here. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side of my top. So I seamed both sides of our top. Here's our openings for our arms. All right, so now let's turn it over onto the right side. And now we have a fun and beautiful layering top. Nice openings for the arms. And I absolutely love this because I'm going to be having the light pink on the front and the light gray, and the dark pink and the dark gray on the back. Isn't that adorable? It's a beautiful top to wear, like I said at the beginning, with a tank top or with a swimsuit underneath, or tank top and jeans, shorts, sundress. Just a layer. It's just absolutely gorgeous. It lays beautifully. And that is one of the neat things about this particular Premier Gradient yarn, is it has wonderful drape.